Marshall, when you're ready, do you want to do a roll call?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay. So we have Gene Case. We have Tom Lee.
Joe.
Susan. Joe. Tom.
Present.
Tom Howard is not here. Thank you. Susan.
Here.
Erica.
Yes. Here.
Frank. Marshall.
Excellent.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Terrific. So, I think we are up to date with approved meeting minutes because of our other meetings
Yes.
have been all joint meetings.
Where the other people are responsible for the notes.
Exactly, so we are up to date, we have no meeting minutes. And then, seeing that there's no public, we also do not tonight have a public comment section because our first order of business is to talk about the SJC ruling, which is in your packet, it's towards the back of the packet. But this is the one that we received information on earlier in March. We have not met, we met once and wanted to attend. Marshall, I know you attended the training
Yes.
from town council. I also attended the training from town council. And this is where we need to, each board or committee within the town basically has to think about and decide whether or not they want to have a public comment section of their meetings. If so, we should, we don't have to, but we should adopt a policy that speaks to time, place, and manner of how we do public comments. So what I included on our agenda is the one that we have been kind of using as a, it was adopted, I know I believe during COVID and when we were on Zoom communications, that this was part of the script. And now we are kind of using this as a model, or could be completely thrown out. We don't have to have a public comment section. We have to hold our meetings in public so that the public can witness our deliberations, any votes, anything that's of that matter. But since we're not a public hearing, we don't have to have a public comment section. I think it might be good to have one. We can have a public comment at the top of our agenda. We can have it at the bottom of our agenda. We can also add, and per agenda basis, if we think there's a topic that's going to
Be of interest.
we could have a public comment section
If somebody comes.
we could have a public comment section for specifically on agenda items. So say we had a reserve fund transfer and we wanted to open it up to people to come and make a comment, we could say that we accept public comments during that time. And that is completely up to the chair on an item by item basis as we're creating an agenda.
Wouldn't it be good to have it so you could never be questioned why you didn't have it?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm vehemently opposed to curtailing or eliminating public comment. Stupid, we're a town.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we absolutely should have it.
Yeah, and I thought our pre-existing parameters were good.
Yep.
I mean, and they fit the criteria as set forth by the SEC, and it's worked so far.
Yeah.
It fits.
Agree.
You know, the one thing that we have to put up with is the First Amendment, freedom of speech, no matter what it is, they have to be allowed to voice that opinion in public comment. And you know what? It's okay. We can live through anything for 15 minutes, or however long it is, depending on the desire of the chair. But I would not want to shut out the public from our meetings.
We currently don't have any requirement that they submit prior to the meeting
No.
to you.
Yep. And we regularly get correspondence. There's an email address that's for the finance committee, and that gets forwarded along to us, as well as oftentimes something will get sent along as well. So public can give feedback through a variety of things. They can come and speak at a meeting, they can email the board, they can email the select board and then include us on that as well. Freedom of Information Act requests that are of this committee come to us and are dealt with. We are open as a public body, so I think we should definitely have a place to have people bring. I would actually welcome some people bringing questions here rather than raising them in other places.
I think we have to have a protocol around how we address those questions and when, because oftentimes I've observed, not here, but elsewhere, where a question is made, someone individually on the board will answer it. That's absolutely wrong for the person on the board to answer that question. Because it's the board that has to make a decision, so I think we need to be clear about that protocol.
Well, I think
We are,
Go ahead.
I've always taken that as de facto, that just
Right.
the chair responds,
yeah,
that's it.
Well, even the chair-
Or if the chair asks for
yeah.
Input or
input
whatever from
from,
the board.
then
Right.
proceed from there, but I've never, I've always just taken that as protocol.
It should be,
Yeah.
that's correct,
Yeah.
yeah. And, I mean, we are, as you pointed out, it's a meeting held in public.
Mhm.
It's not a public hearing.
Mhm.
And for the work of the board to happen, you have to have some limitation on what, number one, how much time you have. And I don't think we do we?
3
minutes.
We have been doing it
15 minutes.
3 minutes a piece for the segment being limited to 15 minutes, which in an
That's been
instance like
adequate for us.
tonight, it's been adequate for us.
It's been adequate for us,
And,
okay. All right.
and we also, the other thing that I'd say is that this is one way of doing, like this is definitely, I think we should have a policy for our routine meetings. It also does not preclude us from having a meeting that is not one of our business meetings, but a meeting in which we have set forth the agenda is to have an information session with the public.
That's different.
That's a different animal, and if anyone's interested in coming, if we have a number of questions that have come to us, or we wanna give people a forum to ask questions, we can always set up a meeting to do that as well, and have that as and that would have a different, that could have more of a back and forth nature of it.
And the extension of that time limit is always the discretion of the chair anyway.
Exactly.
So, like, you know, another thing that probably does not need to be rewritten. And to your point, Gene, about the protocol for submitting questions beforehand, if there was a mandate, whatever that might look like, if there was a mandate that people who come in from the public with questions must receive a response, then I think it would make sense to have a protocol that they need to identify that question
Do it.
beforehand.
Yeah.
But we don't have that. Oftentimes, the extent of the response to this board is, thank you,
Yes,
and it's,
and that should be our,
You know.
for the most part,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You take it under advisement, or,
And we,
because oftentimes, it doesn't have an answer.
No, and oftentimes it's not even a question.
Yeah.
It's a statement.
Yeah,
And it's,
yeah.
thank you.
No, I don't think we've had any issues, quite frankly, in the 20, I don't know how long I've been here, but the 20 is sort of short, isn't it? 84. Anyway,
And I guess if there is something that we're really unsure about, that we're upfront and say, we need to do a fact check.
yeah,
So, you know, thank you for your information, we'll do our fact check and plan on, I guess, bringing it forward to the next meeting, so it's conveyed publicly, the response.
yes,
Yeah, making it an agenda item,
Yeah.
yeah.
they carry it forward.
And I think what we can do too is have an agenda item actually for anything that's submitted via email. If there's any email correspondence that has, you know, that I'm able to answer. Usually it's facts like, how come there's no meeting minutes on this, you know, for this meeting? It's because the answer is, and that type of response I can send directly to a concerned resident, like they don't see a meeting minutes for a meeting we had that was a joint one with the select board, the answer is that is
You're looking at the
under
wrong spot.
and that's an
Perfect.
easy correction.
Yeah.
But making the rest of the committee aware of those correspondence during our meetings, I think we can add that in, just being, but really right now, we don't get, I don't see many emails that come.
Are they usually from the usual suspects? Or
There are
you
a
get
few
them?
common names that,
Right.
when we do get them.
So, for an action item, should we draft a policy and bring it to our next meeting to review?
I think that makes sense. I mean, tonight we have no meeting, no reason to, like, we literally have no one here
Right.
Yeah, we
to
have-
comment, so we don't have to have a public comment section tonight. But I think that we can definitely put together a few things. To get a pulse of this group is the existing one that reads that it's oral communications from members of the public may address the finance committee for up to 3 minutes. Longer with the permission of the chair. Finance committee will not engage in discussion on topics raised during public comment, but may choose to do so to add the topic to a future agenda. This agenda segment will be limited to 15 minutes unless the time is extended at the discretion of the chair. Does that seem like a reasonable
Yes.
starting point for
I
that?
think it's a reasonable starting point, and if that
That's our-
passes muster with town council, we're good.
Yeah.
But that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
essentially, it's a no change policy.
It's a no
Right.
change, yeah. Yep. It was never adopted as a policy, it just kind of evolved
really?
into one. Yeah, that's as best we can tell, there's no, because we didn't know that we had to have a policy until this SJC ruling. It always had just been like a stated thing that evolved during, because I know pre-COVID it didn't.
Pre-COVID, people talked as long as they wanted to.
Yes,
And we still never had anybody go over 15 minutes. But having this means that we are in control of that rather than not in control.
mhm.
And so I think that's a good spot. So we'll just,
So it'll be drafted up and then we
Draft
vote
it.
on it for
Yep, we'll
next
vote on it at the
meeting?
next meeting, yep. And at that meeting, we can also decide whether or not, if we have members of the public here, we can, as a body, decide to have a public comment section after the policy's been adopted. We don't have any old lingering business items. Our last meeting was around the time of town meeting, and votes were taken by town meeting and at election, and nothing on any of the issues from there are in front of this committee at all at this point in time.
Reserve fund.
Yes, in terms of reserve fund transfers, we have 3 here, and I will also point out Tracy is not here because she is at a conference. And I've talked to her about these 3 reserve fund transfers. And if we don't feel good about any of them and we don't pass it, then it'll come back to us, but we can talk through each of them. They are attached, I did double-sided to not use as much paper, so they are front and back here. So the first one is a request for $5,000 from the tax title and foreclosure to be transferred to the tax title and foreclosure account. This only has an appropriation balance now of $695. This is stemming from a legal fees associated with one of the foreclosure that is happening right now. This one has been a little bit more complicated because there is an individual who has, for all of these for every one of these foreclosures, there's certain actions that have to be taken at like 30 days, 60 days that all have to be legal. This one has gone as far as foreclosure. the individual, we are also helping to see if there's some, they also own the property next door, which is not in foreclosure, and seeing if there's ways to help this person be able to maintain their property, retain their property by other means.
And is that their home?
Excuse me?
Is that their home?
I'm not sure, I'm not sure, but
This
I
is
do know
foreclosure due to not payment of property
due
tax.
property taxes.
Okay.
So-
This is nothing to do with banks or loans or?
Nothing with banks or
Okay,
loans,
property
this
tax.
is unpaid property
And we need to
taxes.
spend money to, the expenditure of capital is to pay for the foreclosure proceeding.
Yes, exactly.
And it's, and I'm curious as to whether it's just land or if it's also a
It's
house.
also, it's,
house
yes,
on land.
it's house on
Okay.
land. So it's, and,
Better about that.
yes, so this is the amount of time that this one has taken. It's been a little bit longer than what was ever budgeted for in terms of, fees for this year.
Need a motion?
Yes.
So moved?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is the first one. The second reserve fund transfer is an amount of $8,842 to be transferred to the library building maintenance expense account. The purpose of this is paying the remaining scheduled expenses. There were 2 extraordinary unforeseen expenses occurred during the fiscal year. Emergency repairs to the HVAC system and a glycol leak that were not considered when the budget was prepared. So attached to here is the amount for the repair of the library burner and module, and then the glycol leak, which was very much unforeseen.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. All right. And the last one is, this amount is for $2,500 to be transferred to postage expense. This is paying postage expenses through the end of it, through the end of the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. This is driven in part, this is driven due to the increased costs associated with mail-in ballots, and the postage associated with that 100% is where this is coming from. We will also probably see an adjustment or another reserve fund transfer for fiscal 24 as well, because now with a little bit of time under our belts, knowing that the appetite for mail-in voting is continuing, that we will have to increase this expense in future years. Also, appetite and also postal rates are the 2 reasons.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent, those 3 have gone forward. The only other item under new business, which is not on the agenda, but I do want to make sure that we addressed, it was brought to our attention that there is a bylaw, and this is being, I want to pass this along, a citizen brought forth that one of the members of our committee who was appointed by the select board holds the constable position and a seat on the finance committee, which is in violation of bylaw in town of Newbury. This has been referred to town council. We do not have the final decision, but at this, in terms of that impact on the committee, it appears upon first read of this is that Tom Howard would either need to give up the constable position or a seat on the finance committee until such time as the bylaw is changed, but that's just an initial layperson's read from this, and we are awaiting a decision from our town, an opinion from our town council.
He'd also be off of capital planning.
Right, yes, as a member from this committee, so it would have a different effect, so we will see what comes of that.
Or he could give up being constable.
Right,
Good
so,
design.
Or somebody may say, oh, it's okay.
Well,
It-
I don't wanna have a discussion, but we had,
Nope.
I'll talk to other people, but in the past, there's been some exception to this bylaw, and I don't understand. I can't recall. It's something to do with the size of the town.
Yes, it does. And
And
it's happened
because-
in lots of different small
Right.
towns in the
Yeah.
Commonwealth,
Yeah,
where when you don't have enough volunteers,
People,
and they
Yeah.
say, you can sit on two things as
Yeah.
long as they determine that essentially it's really not a conflict of interest.
yeah, right.
The two duties
Right.
do not impinge on each other.
We've had that, I know we have
Yes,
in
we
the
have.
past. I just can't, my memory is not.
I know we had Doug Packer on the Conservation Commission and the zoning board.
Yes, well, that's
that's
okay,
two
right?
appointed.
Yeah, I think those are okay.
It's just the mix of elected and
Although, but he
appointed.
also, no, he also was employed. Yeah,
Oh, right,
so, yeah, so, anyway, we'll wait on council.
yes, which is why,
And Bob Connors is on
Yeah,
the Conservation Commission
Yeah.
and the Building
Yeah.
Commission
Yeah,
Committee.
Which-
Those are both appointed.
both appointed, I think I think it's the mix.
The mix
It's
of
the mix
elected.
of elected, and
Yeah,
that is what was brought
yeah.
forth in this one.
It sounds like the difference, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
so again, not anything for, there's not, and also we don't, this citizen also has requested, that, also requested that, every vote that Tom Howard has made while serving in both capacities would be subject to review if this law is held. That is not up to our committee to decide, that is very much in the hands of legal, and, the only, like, quite honestly, the moving of money that we did tonight with the reserve fund transfers are the only ones that we have any hand in things. Our votes to recommend are non-binding, they are our group's votes to recommend actions, and we by no means dictate the expenditure of money outside of the reserve fund transfers. And that's by bylaw there as well, so.
Okay. Upcoming meetings?
Upcoming meetings. I do not anticipate any end-of-year transfers at this point in time based on conversations with Tracy, so I don't think there's any, those usually have to be done within the 2 weeks after the close of the fiscal.
Why don't we schedule a meeting? We can always cancel it.
Yep. I think it would be July 11th, unless, hold on, because July 4th is the first Tuesday,
Yeah, no, it's,
and that's not gonna work.
No.
I just wanna double check.
Second Tuesday is
Is
typically the select board.
right.
And they are meeting, I believe, once a month during the summer months, but I could be, that always can change. So let's see here. The select board meeting is meeting on the 11th. could meet on the Monday or the Wednesday night right now. We could have this room.
Yeah, either one.
I prefer Wednesday.
Works for me.
Wednesday the 12th. Does that sound like a good?
The second Wednesday?
Yes.
That never works. I have a standing second Wednesday.
Well, if we can muster a
Right.
quorum, we
Yeah,
can do
if
it.
you need it, you can.
Yes.
It's usually, and with, you know, when they change the way that end of year stuff happens, I don't think we've had.
I don't think we've
Do
had,
anything.
no, because it's within the purview of the town accountants
Yeah,
that there's,
They
that,
have some limits.
there's, yeah, there's a threshold we don't
Leeway.
usually have to. So we'll put that as a scheduled meeting, but I don't, and then we'll, if we
Yeah.
don't have need for it. After that, the meeting would be, let's go to August.
You're just pushing along.
I'm gonna say-
Did I say
Oh,
September?
Yes, you did.
Don't we skip August?
We
Yeah.
We usually skip August,
Skip
but
August.
we will
You'll
put it
warm up
on.
by then.
I will, Tuesday, August 1st, I will let you all know I am unavailable. I will be at the Pink concert in
Oh my gosh.
It is.
Fenway Park.
Pink
Um,
concert.
And then after that, September would be
Fifth.
Tuesday, 9/5, 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wishing my life away to September.
So I will put each of those on the calendar. I won't, and I won't post the agendas yet, but I'll at least post the meetings on the calendar for this room so that we can have that. And
Now, I have one more piece of new business.
yes,
We have, from capital planning, we have initiated under my tenure, at least, capital planning committee and capital planning plans. One of the things that we did not do is we have not instituted a capital planning budget for the town of Newbury. And so I said, is there such a thing, and have we seen it? And so I've done some research, and in fact, there are such things. And I went to lots of government agencies, including the Government Accounting Standards Board and the GAO. And I think it's going to be a very good idea to start a capital budgeting process. From what I've gathered from people who have done it, what it does is it tends to level taxation so that you don't have bumps and valleys, and that it also saves the town money in interest expense in projects that are still on the drawing boards, or maybe even as far as over the horizon. So I was going to take a shot at that because I think it belongs to this committee as well as capital planning, i.e. being the finance part. And so at our next meeting, should we have a next meeting? No, we'll have one. But I'd like to bring that forward from the capital planning committee as a budgetary item to bring forward, and then try and get that instituted in the town. Seeing what we have done when we have put money aside for projects in the future, it can save us a lot of money, one, and two, if we do it judiciously, we can level out taxes so that we don't have, in some projects, we could avoid going out for an overrun. So I think it's a worthwhile exercise to get under our belts.
agreed.
So
Absolutely. I think that's,
we'll put it on the agenda.
put that on the agenda. Also on the agenda for upcoming meeting, to be scheduled, the fire chief and deputy chief are going to be meeting, they are gonna come probably in September, to talk about anything. This is kind of, it would be related to capital planning as well. But just in, a number of things were raised in different public meetings this spring about needs that they have, and those were not, I'm not saying whether, they were unaware of some of the things that were raised during those, and are not sure, because it was mentioned by members of residents, but not brought forth directly by anyone in the fire department, to our board to tell us that there was an expense coming up. So it's just to basically have a meeting where they're gonna come and talk to us about any upcoming needs. That's very similar to what they do as they think about their capital planning, so.
Yep.
And
Oh, yes, okay.
anything
Okay.
else that.
Now I remember what that
Yes.
was about.
So it's, yeah, there were some things that it was, but it was definitely not, there's nothing in front of us, there's no reserve fund transfers for immediate needs of something that needs to be fixed, addressed, failing in any way at, either of the fire stations or amongst equipment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, it happens in our business all the time. Somebody comes up to me and says, I hear we're for sale. Damn, I'm always the last one to know that. Nobody ever tells me these things. So, yes, I remember now, it was brought forth from people who should have known better, that this was in fact,
Yeah.
this was what they perceived as fact when it was not. Mhm.
Yes. So that is, they will be a special guest in an upcoming meeting. If anyone has questions for that, we can do that, but.
Is there a regular process for that to occur with the
Yes.
departments?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
We do
We used to
that.
do it all the time with every department.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
but with COVID, I wasn't sure if that had been
No, we-
reestablished or,
No,
okay,
we never stopped it.
okay.
No,
In fact, in the capital plan, we have all of their budget sheets and timing for their equipment.
Okay,
It does change,
of course.
and one of the things about the capital planning is that they have been really good about going out and getting grants. So we've gone for approvals for, $200,000 and it costs us 18 or 20,000.
Right.
So that's,
Mhm.
again, one of the reasons to have capital budgeting is to go out and find money that's available to offset some of these expenses. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
absolutely.
Second,
All those in
third,
favor?
fourth, fifth, sixth.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.